So let's start. First of all, thank you to be here. Thank you, Lufthansa, and thank you to the participants. I present myself. I'm Sara. I'm the responsible of the associate of the Italian Chamber of Commerce. And I welcome you to this session with Lufthansa, to this webinar about the sustainability of Lufthansa Group. I introduce you to Michael and Alejandro, and now that's yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Sarah. Maybe I would just start, Michael, if you're okay with that. Yes, my name is Alejandro Arias. I'm the Director of Sales for Lufthansa Group here in Mexico and Central America. Very nice to meet you, and thanks for giving us some of your valuable time to tell you a little bit what Lufthansa is doing in terms of sustainability. I would just maybe start, Michael, if you could move to the next slide, a little bit explaining about the Lufthansa Group, so what we are. And so basically, it's not only Lufthansa. We have more airlines belonging to a group. We have the Austrian, we have Brussels Airlines, Eurowings, Lufthansa, of course, and Swiss. And with all these airlines, we are operating to 320, almost 320 destinations around the world, distributed over 104 countries. And the next slide, you can see how we are distributed, basically. And maybe I would, so this is the Italian Chamber, I would like to focus on Europe. So in Europe, we are basically operating to more than 200 destinations in 44 countries. In Italy, particularly, we are operating almost to 20 destinations. So this is quite a vast network. And this is one of our strengths. In the next slide, you can see also how many flights we are operating to Mexico. We have basically two destinations. One is, of course, Ciudad de Mexico, Mexico City, where we have a daily flight, the 747-8, operating to Frankfurt. However, we are also operating to Cancun, a very popular destination in Mexico for Europeans. That's why we have here flights from Edelweiss. Edelweiss is a leisure airline belonging to Swiss, operating from Zurich to Cancun. Austrian from Cancun to Vienna. They will operate again in the winter time, when in Germany or in Europe, also in Italy, it's get cold and you like to go and look for the sun. And Eurowings Discover is also our vacationing or leisure airline, leisure premium airline, where we're operating currently to Munich and Frankfurt. And in the winter, we will have 5 frequencies connecting Frankfurt with Cancun. So it's a bit like where we are right now. Let me give you a little bit of a glimpse also about a program that we're offering for small and medium enterprises, which might be interesting for one or the other if you're not yet a member. And this is actually called our Partner Plus benefit. This is actually a loyalty program, a corporate loyalty program, where once you sign up, which is totally free, we could offer you points for every flight that you do with us or with any of our group airlines. And with these points, you can later use them for perks like upgrades, access back, or buying SAF, which is sustainable aviation fuel. Michael will tell you more about this at a later point in time. So, and very important here to mention that we also have the Miles & More program, which is basically the Lufthansa Group program. But you can basically accumulate both. So the individual, the traveler, can accumulate Miles & More points or miles. In addition, the corporate can accumulate points for Partner Plus benefit if you are signed up to this program. In the next slides, you can basically see what this program is all about. Yeah, so it's, as I said, basically free of charge to join. If you join, you get 1,500 points as a welcome bonus. Accreditation, similar, Miles & More Partner Plus benefit altogether at the same time is possible. You can decide what benefits you want to use. The points that you accumulate are valid for 3 years, so they don't expire that soon. And you can, if you would like, if you have a travel agency basically taking care of your trips, they also can basically administer that account if you give them the authorization. And once you sign up, also you're able to basically accrue points from all the flights that you've done with us or with our group airlines for the last 12 months. So I think it's a very good opportunity in case you travel a lot to Europe, to use this program. Now I would like to hand over, yes, Michael. I would like to hand over to Michael to continue with what Lufthansa Group is doing in terms of sustainability.
Yes, thanks, Alejandro. Yeah, short introduction of myself. My name is Michael Nau. I'm based in Frankfurt at the headquarters of the Lufthansa Group, and I'm responsible for the topic sustainability in regards of international sales. Yeah, let me start about our own sustainability targets of the Lufthansa Group. Yeah, actually we have tough targets. Yeah, not only because we get the pressure from the government or from the EU Union. Actually, we started with the sustainability topics many years ago. Yeah, you can see that also here on different stages. Yeah, overall, our goal is to reduce the carbon footprint by 50% by until end of this decade, so until 2030, and we want to be net zero by 2050. Maybe you will think that minus 50% is not a very challenging target until end of this decade, but it is, especially for airlines, because compared to other industries like the automotive industry, we are not able to fly with electronic airplanes. This is definitely not the case in a few years, maybe in 20 or 30 years, but not in the next couple of years. We are in discussions with Boeing and Airbus, but they have some pilot airplanes with electricity, but only for really small ones. For example, if you commute 2 or 3 people, for example, within Mexico City from A to B, just to avoid the traffic jam, but it's nothing really for longer distance like Mexico City to Europe. Okay, how can we achieve these challenging reduction targets? Actually, we divided this in 3 different pillars. On the left side here on that chart, you see it. The first pillar is by modernizing our fleet, so investing in new airplanes. Here, when we have all the newest, most fuel-efficient airplanes, we can reduce our carbon footprint by 30%. That's actually what we are doing. Just a couple of days ago, Lufthansa got their first Dreamliner, though the B787. And we also invested heavily in an Airbus A350, which is also a long-haul aircraft. And these 2 new models have only 2 engines. And therefore, they are much more fuel efficient than, for example, the A340 or the 747. And because of that, we are phasing out all the older models, and we will produce, or we will fly only with the newest airplanes in a couple of years. The same is on the short haul fleet. We heavily invest in an Airbus, in an A320neo, which also produces 25% less carbon emission. That is one pillar. The second pillar you find here in the center of that slide. We call it operational efficiency or ops efficiency. I think you have seen it when you sit in an airplane, and then the catering truck is docking to the airplane, and we will switch all these catering trucks to e-mobility, and also the trucks which are helpful for the taxiing of the airplane at the runway. We also switch them step by step to e-mobilities. On top, on the ops efficiency, what else are we doing is we work together with the what is English word, flight control systems, yeah, to optimize the shortest flight from city A to B, which is at the moment, especially within Europe, not the case. For example, we just found out flights between Frankfurt and Barcelona. Now with the new systems, the flights are 10% shorter. So what does it mean? We also need less fuel, and therefore we can save a lot of carbon footprint. The third pillar here, this is called SAF, or Sustainable Aviation Fuel. And this is actually where we need your support, where we want to collaborate with you or your companies. Why? When we add the ops efficiency and all the modern fleet modernization, we will not reach the 50%. Therefore, we need also to fly with sustainable aviation fuel. Sustainable aviation fuel does not produce any carbon footprint compared to fossil kerosene. Lufthansa heavily invested in sustainable aviation fuel. We are the biggest buyer in Europe and the second biggest buyer of all airlines worldwide. Last October, so exactly 1 year ago, we made a commitment to buy SAF for an investment of $250 million US. And a couple of weeks ago, we signed a MOU, so Memorandum of Understanding, with the company Shell of an investment of over $3 billion US for the next 7 years. So it shows we are committed in regards of sustainable aviation fuel. We believe in it, but of course we have to also to use it and to sell it. And here we need you. Besides sustainable aviation fuel, we also invest in, here you can see it, it's called power to liquid, or there is another technology, it's called sun to liquid, where electricity is produced by renewable energy like solar or wind energy. And this can also be then used for our aircraft. All right, this is the overview of the 3 pillars. Very important for the Lufthansa Group is we want to be transparent. Because we definitely want to avoid the discussions about greenwashing. Is it really true what Lufthansa Group is telling us with these different initiatives? Yes, I can tell you, and we promise this, all our initiatives are 100% transparent. And we are a member of the SBTI, so Science-Based Target Initiatives. It's an initiative approved by scientists, yeah, and also all our initiatives in regards of sustainability are public. Yeah, you can also find, everyone can Google on our website. We will publish all the reports, which are then certified by external companies, and therefore there is no greenwashing at our Lufthansa Group company. Our approach is, we have a 3-step approach. We focus on CO2 avoidance, reduction, and compensation. What is avoidance? If you don't fly, you avoid CO2. Of course, this is not what we want, because this is our core business, flying people from A to B, connecting people. So for example, if you want to visit your family in Italy, or if you have a duty trip to your company's headquarters in Italy, for example, there is only one option by plane. Yeah, I think if you take a ship from Mexico to Italy, it takes you probably a couple of weeks. Therefore, you have to take, or you will take, an airplane. But what is meant with avoidance? If, for example, if you fly in Lufthansa from Mexico to Frankfurt and you have a duty trip to Düsseldorf, which is a city close by in Frankfurt, in Germany, here we work together with a German railway company, and they work with green energy, and therefore there is no carbon footprint involved for the destination between Frankfurt and Düsseldorf. So the collaboration between Lufthansa Group and the German railway, or the same in Switzerland or in Belgium or in Austria, there we call it CO2 avoidance. Reduction as a second step is what I just mentioned with sustainable aviation fuel, because when we fuel sustainable aviation fuel into our tanks, no CO2 is produced. And the third step is, we call it compensation, is you're also able, when you fly in the Lufthansa Group, if you're willing a little money, it doesn't cost a lot, you can invest in compensation projects. Here we work together with an NGO called My Climate. They're based in Switzerland. And with this money, when you donate it to the Lufthansa Group, we make sure that this money is invested in compensation projects like refostering, building up solar panels or wind energy or watercraft. It's all certified, so no no worries that this money will not end up in compensation projects. We make sure that 100% the money will go to such projects. Okay, let's come back to sustainable aviation fuel. And this is here again, this is when we talk about reduction. Yeah, so no carbon footprint will emitted when we fuel sustainable aviation fuel. Unfortunately, yeah, sustainable aviation fuel is not really cheap. Why is it the case? Because supply and demand is not really in an even level field. The demand is currently much higher than the supply. And due to that, the price is quite high. Yeah. The good thing is all these major companies who are producing fossil kerosene like Shell, ExxonMobil, Repsol, BP, they have seen that this is a future market and that they only can survive if they invest also heavily in sustainable aviation fuel. They did, and they're doing this currently, but until they can start with a new production of this of their fields, it takes normally up to 2 to 3 years. Therefore, all analysts forecast that the price of SAF will be high for the next 2 to 3 years, but then definitely the price will go down. If you will invest now in SAF with the Lufthansa Group, if you want to reduce your carbon footprint, you have to invest $730 to reduce 1 ton of carbon footprint. Later on a slide, you can see how much CO2 or carbon footprint you will produce on flights to Europe, especially to Italy. But before I give you some examples, if you fly on a duty trip for your employer, and if you invest for more than $2,000 in sustainable aviation fuel, Lufthansa is able to hand out your company an official certificate, which your company, if, for example, if the headquarters is in Italy, can use to claim it on their annual report. And as you know, in the EU Union, this is very important because then you can avoid any penalties to pay if you don't reach your reduction targets. This certificate is also done or is created by an external certifier. It's not by Lufthansa, and it's officially acknowledged in all the markets, not only in the EU. So for example, if you want to claim this in Mexico, definitely it will be acknowledged or accepted in also for your entity in Mexico or in other markets like in Latin America. We guarantee this, by the way, in this contract. When I say sustainable aviation fuel is not producing or is not having any carbon footprint, it's 100% clean or reduced by carbon footprint. But if you see here on the left side, it's mentioned 80%. The reason 80% is because the certifier or the rules and regulations require the whole supply chain of sustainable aviation fuel until it is fueled in our airplanes. For example, we as a Lufthansa Group, we are getting our sustainable aviation fuel currently from refineries out of the Netherlands and in Belgium. And how it is transported to our hub in Frankfurt, it is transported with ships or trains. And of course, the ships and the train, they also produce carbon footprint, and this has to be deducted from this 100% saving. But we have to handle this minus 20%. But for you, if you buy or your company buys sustainable aviation fuel, for you it's 100% reduction, because from you it only counts until it is fueled into our airplanes. But just to let you know, for us it is 80%, but we have to cover the 20% and not you or your company. What is in what is the content of sustainable aviation fuel? There are different contents. We at Lufthansa Group, we are buying only the higher standard. It's called the red standard. There is no palm oil included. We also guarantee this. And there are no animal feedstock like pigs or from cows. It's only from wheat, which is part of the content of our SAF. Currently, who is our supplier? We have two major ones. The biggest one for us is a company in Finland. It's called Neste. They are the world's biggest SAF supplier or producer. And the second supplier is a company out of Austria. The name is OMV. But I mentioned it already. We signed an MOU with Shell. So Shell will also be a supplier of SAF for the Lufthansa Group, but we are also constantly looking for others because, as I mentioned it, the supply is not as we want. Yeah, so we try to get wherever it is possible, but for sure we only take the highest, the so-called red standard of sustainable aviation fuel. Okay, here are the examples which I mentioned already. If you are interested in buying SAF for your private flights or for your duty trips with your employer, it's totally scalable when you invest in SAF. For example, if you say, I want to reduce 100% of my CO2 emissions with SAF, that is possible. If you say, I want to start with 10% reduction, 5%, 20, whatever, it's totally scalable. How we measure it, there's no problem. Just contact the Mexican Lufthansa sales team. They're happy to support you in regards of your CO2 report. It can be easily done. Then you have a full transparency. Yeah, for example, if you say, can we get the information about our CO2 footprint of our company for the last quarter, the last 6 months, the last year? No problem. We can give you a report where you exactly see how much carbon footprint you had with your company, or even if you say on private flights. Here you see examples. For example, if you fly from Mexico to Frankfurt and back in economy class, the total carbon footprint of that is 1,310 kilogram. And if you want to reduce 20%, so 262 kilogram, it would mean an investment of $200. If you fly, for example, from Mexico via Frankfurt to Milano and the same way back to Mexico, the emission is slightly higher than only to Frankfurt, of course, because it's another leg. It's the flight between Frankfurt to Milano and back. The total carbon footprint is 1,450 kilogram, and 20% of it is 290. In that case, an investment of $222 are needed to reduce carbon by 20%. If you fly in business class, it's higher. Probably you will ask us now, why is it higher? Because I still have the same weight. Yes, that is true. Yeah, and you have probably the same luggage on board in business class, or if you fly in economy class. But the certifier requires the place which you have on board of the airplane. So as a business class seat needs more space and is heavier, then therefore you have to you produce more carbon footprint than if you are flying in economy class. You can see it's even more than double, so it's 2,810 kilo to a flight to Frankfurt and back. Why? Because a business class seat on a long haul flight needs more than double of the space on board than an economy class seat. Yeah. Then it's the same example to Milano here. So you need exactly 3 tons, so 3,000 kilo of carbon. And if you want to reduce by 20%, so 600 kilo, an investment of $459 is needed. Yeah, you can see it is not cheap. On the other hand, it's a very good investment. It's something good for our globe. And especially for your company, it definitely helps to increases the image. But more important, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, your company will get an official certificate. And here you can see. So if your company invests more than 2,000 US dollar, then we are able to hand out you such a certificate, which you can see on the left side. You can see, so what will be here? It will be the company names of your employer, exactly how many kilograms of reduction and how many kilograms of SAF were invested. And here there is a number of the European Union. So it's an official certificate. It cannot be copied because it has a number which is stored at the different governments in the European Union. Though there is no fake possible. And this is a highly official document, which then you can claim or your company can claim all over the world. And it's only for your company. Yeah, so we guarantee that the reduction for this emission of the duty trips, and they are called scope 3, so indirect emissions, will only acknowledged for your company and no other company, not for Lufthansa or any other companies. That is for sure. Okay. Yeah, actually we have two options. I mentioned it also at the beginning. So you can invest in sustainable aviation fuel, or you can say on your private trip or on a duty trip, we want to invest in compensation projects. And here we worked together with, I mentioned it, with My Climate, and they have only certified projects, only with gold standard. So therefore, we make sure, and My Climate make sure that the money you invest in such projects are well invested, and there are no dark channels where maybe the money is not going directly to the projects. No, that's guaranteed. Here you can see a glimpse of the projects, of the portfolio. It's all over the world. And for example, if you say we are really interested, but isn't it possible to invest in a compensation projects in Mexico? Yeah, that is possible. Let us know. Please contact the Lufthansa sales team, yeah, the team of Alejandro, and we can talk to My Climate. And it is possible also to add compensation projects in Mexico, Mexico City, or Cancun, wherever. Yeah, that is definitely possible because, for example, if you say it is better if we can see where we invest, that we can see where our money is invested, fostering, for example, in Mexico, or building up solar panels in Mexico City by My Climate. This is definitely possible. Yeah. Okay. Therefore, if you are interested in such sustainability investments in sustainable aviation fuel or compensation projects, as I mentioned, yeah, please contact the Lufthansa sales team. They're happy to assist. Yeah, and again, it's absolutely scalable. Yeah, so it's not a big investment needed. You can try maybe with a smaller investment, and if you're convinced in this second step, you can increase the investment. Whatever you want is possible. Yeah, we would be happy to collaborate with you or your company. We believe in such investments to make our globe a little bit greener and better, and that we do not have to have flight shame if we fly from Mexico to Europe. Yeah, just there are possibilities to compensate the CO2 emissions or to reduce with these different initiatives. Yeah, that's from my side, from the presentation. Hopefully, or if you have some questions to Alejandro and myself, we're happy to answer your questions. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. I think I would like to maybe add just one comment that, as you can see, I mean, Lufthansa Group is doing a lot to basically protect the environment, but we also understand that this is something that we cannot do by ourselves. No, it's, of course, we take this responsibility very seriously, but we believe that it's more effective if we can partner up with you. So this is why this is an invitation to join us in this fight, in this battle to protect the environment, protect the planets. And I hope that you agree with us that this is a really good invested money in order to make sure that that the world stays as beautiful as it is today and not gets any worse. Mm-hmm. Thank you. I hand over to Sarah, or if there are any questions, of course, we are ready to answer them.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Alejandro. I don't know if Tezi or Jose have any questions. If not, we can end the session here.
Okay.
No, thank you. It's really clear, and I am part of Lufthansa sales team. So if the companies have some question or they want to join us, or really, we will be very happy to assist them.
Good.
Okay, thank you very much also to Alejandra that allowed this webinar to happen. And it's very interesting what Lufthansa is doing with the sustainability team. Not all the companies invest in sustainability because, as you said, often sustainability is costs a lot. And so not so many companies are investing in it. But yeah, our plan, we have to safeguard our planet, no? Mm-hmm. And so that's very interesting, your project about sustainability. So I thank you another time, Michael and Alejandro, to talk about this topic to us. I thank you, Alejandra, to organize this webinar with the Italian Chamber of Commerce. And I thank you, the participants, to with us.
To finish, we would like to share with you a video. So I will share my screen so we can so we can see what Lufthansa is doing for the sustainability.
What does this and this and that have to do with flying? To become carbon neutral by 2050, in addition to the measures we have already taken, we decided to go one step further and look for inspiration where we have never looked before. That's how we came up with ways to turn challenges into solutions, like waste, used vegetable oil, or food residues into sustainable aviation fuel. Today, the Lufthansa Group is already SAF's top customer in Europe. Until we replace all single-use plastic items with sustainable alternatives, we will also convert some into crude oil. We're even developing solutions to use jet fuel made from CO2 that has been pulled back out of the atmosphere. Other answers were found in nature. For example, bamboo, from which we make compostable cutlery. This plant grows super fast and is therefore the perfect CO2 absorber. Or AeroShock, a film that replicates the skin of sharks and reduces friction and drag, and thus fuel consumption. And while we're talking about efficiency, by bringing artificial intelligence on board, we managed to optimize daily operations and flight routes to reduce fuel consumption. That's how we aspire to bring flying and nature into harmony. We make sharks fly. We make bamboo fly. We make waste and oil fly. We make change fly. Lufthansa Group.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
So thank you very much. The video explains very well what Lufthansa is doing with sustainability and in general what Lufthansa Group is. I thank you very much another time. I remember you that the webinar was recorded, so you can find it in our social media, for example, LinkedIn and Facebook, if you wanted to share. And that's all for today. Thank you very much.